Good evening.
Good evening, Chair McCoy.
Do we have a do we have a quorum?
We are missing 2 commissioners, but yes, we have a quorum.
Okay. I now call this meeting of the Parks, Recreation, and Arts Commission to order. City Clerk, would you please do roll call?
Certainly. Commissioner Parks.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Barraza.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Singh. Don't see him on quite yet. Commissioner Cummings.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Apuda. I think you're
I'm here.
Thank you, Dr. Apuda. Commissioner Vang. Not on just yet. Vice Chair Dolan.
Present.
Thank you. And Chair McCoy.
Present.
All right.
Thank you. We will now begin the Pledge of Allegiance. Will everyone please stand? Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will start with the approval of the agenda. City Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
I have received no changes to the agenda.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. This is Commissioner Oputa.
Thank
Second.
you, Dr. Apuda.
Second, Commissioner Dolan.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dolan. City Clerk, would you please conduct roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Parks, approval of the agenda.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Barraza.
Yes.
Commissioner Singh, still absent. Commissioner Cummings. Commissioner Cummings, approval of the agenda?
Yes. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you. Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Commissioner Apuda.
Approved.
Commissioner Vang. I think still.
Yes.
Oh, you have joined us. Thank you very much. Chair McCoy, or Vice Chair Dolan,
Aye.
and Chair McCoy.
Aye.
That passes 8-0.
We will now move on to approval of minutes. ID number 22-1123, approval of minutes of June 6, 2022, regular meeting, and June 27th, 2022, special meeting. Are there any changes to the meetings from June 6, 2022?
Madam Chair, I have changes to that set of minutes. First of all, it was written that I expressed concern with the approved budget votes. That's not really accurate of what I said. I expressed concerns with the process. Again, not the votes per se. So that's one correction. The second correction is that it said I spoke regarding the raising of the pride flag. Because that's such a controversial issue, it's very important that they say pretty close to what I said, which was I express appreciation to the mayor and the city of Fresno for raising the pride flag. That's really important that it's clear. Yeah, those are my corrections. And just one other thing that may be minor, but there's just a lot of typos and misspellings, et cetera, et cetera. So folks might want to take a look at that.
Thank you
Sorry,
for pointing that.
it's the academic in me.
No, thank you very much. We definitely appreciate it. And I have those, so both of those corrections that you stated, those were both on the June 27th meeting?
Madam Chair.
Hold on 1 second, Commissioner Barraza. Dr. Apuda, you are on mute. We can't hear you. the answer to the question from City Clerk?
Thank you. I believe I'm looking at the June 6th meeting agenda, minutes. Okay, hold on. I think it's the June 27th meeting.
June 27th. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Commissioner Barraza?
Yes, Madam Chair, as you recall, at the last meeting, I requested correction of the minutes and that there be a reference included about the fact that the minutes, something along these lines, minutes to be corrected to reflect that there was no adequate documentation presented by city staff, that the budget met the requirements of the Measure P ordinance, that not less than 50% of Measure P funding under certain categories meet the requirements of the highest needs neighborhoods definition as approved by the City Council. And that intends to be an explanation as to why, at least I second the motion not to approve the budget. That was the main reason why, because we as commissioners have the responsibility to make sure that we're complying with the requirements of the Measure P ordinance.
Aldi, would you like to respond? Or City Clerk?
So the city clerk's office is the one that handles the minutes, not Parks
Right.
Department.
So, and this is the city clerk. So I was told that the staff went back and listened to the minutes and that a correction was made to the June 6th based off of what was said during that meeting in that particular area. If they are still not to your to your liking, I suppose we would need to then state it one more time as a correction, and we would vote on it if you would like it stated as what you're saying right now. We can do that. Of course, this has to be because it was the memory of all of the commissioners. I haven't gone back myself and looked precisely at the language that was changed. I was just told that it was changed based off of the actual footage from the meeting.
City Clerk, one option for you is to go back and check that one more time.
I'm certainly happy to do that.
As the minutes are to reflect the accuracy of the meeting.
Agreed. So at this point, it's up to a motion maker. We have two corrections from Dr. Apuda and a correction from Commissioner Barraza that would like to be made. So I'll leave it at that.
Commissioner Parks?
I have, if we're working on both sets of minutes, I have a very minor correction to the June 27th minutes. In the section, the subcommittee reports, it says that Commissioner Parks met with staff to discuss the draft plan. It should actually say the subcommittee. So the whole subcommittee met with staff to discuss the draft plan of the timeline for the cultural arts plan. It wasn't just me.
Thank you very much. And of course, we'll expect a motion to incorporate these corrections.
I move that we accept the minutes of the previous two meetings with the noted edits.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dolan. I second.
And just for clarification, and I apologize to drag things on, and for the correction from Commissioner Barraza, the city attorney suggested an option was to check it out again, or are we consistent? Are all the members fine, including that? Is that the recollection of all the commissioners here? Are we including that in this motion?
Yes, my motion is to accept Commissioner Barraza's corrections to the minutes as he stated them.
All right.
And
so-
I second it.
All right, so we have a motion and a second with those corrections, and I guess now it's time for the vote.
Yes, please do roll call.
Commissioner Parks,
Yes.
Commissioner Barraza,
Yes.
Commissioner Singh,
Yes.
Commissioner Cummings,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Naputa,
Yes.
Commissioner Vang,
Yes.
Vice Chair Dolan,
Yes.
and Chair McCoy.
Yes,
All right, 9-0.
thank you. We will now move on to subcommittee reports. This item is a discussion item for the commission, and no public comments will be taken related to this item. Does the Cultural Arts Plan Subcommittee have an update it would like to provide to this commission?
Commissioner McCoy, no update. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the Parks Master Plan Subcommittee have an update it would like to provide to this commission?
We do not have an update to provide to the commission today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cummings. We will now move on to member reports and comments. As a reminder, this is a time for commission members to report anything that they feel important for the public or commission to know, but it's not a time for discussion. Dr. Naputa, do you have any comments or reports?
No, I do not, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Cummings, do you have any reports or comments?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm reading my notes. Sorry.
It's okay, no problem. Commissioner Vang, do you have any reports or comments?
The only comment I have is I want to give kudos to the Parks Department because I think 3 days ago, it was the first day of camp of Fresno, and I heard from constituent that there was a lot of success. So I want to give kudos to our Parks Department for ensuring that there's a diversity at the camp and kids are having fun. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Commissioner Parks, do you have any reports or comments?
Just a super quick comment. I recently followed the Parks Department Facebook page, and I feel like I know about all kinds of stuff I had no idea was happening. So kudos for that. And there's lots of good information being shared there.
Thank you. Commissioner Barraza, do you have any reports or comments?
No, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Singh, do you have any reports or comments?
None at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller, do you have any reports or comments?
No, not right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, I do have a comment. July 8th, which was last Friday, was my last day with Fresno Building Healthy Communities as a project director. I have since moved on and accepted a position as policy advocate for Central California Asthma Collaborative. So I will still be fighting for the community. I will still be making present, presenting myself and being present for city council meetings and things like that that concern my community that I represent. But I just wanted to make that announcement. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will now move on to city administration and park staff reports and comments. Does anyone from the administration have any reports or comments for the commission?
I do. This is, oh, sorry, TJ, do you want to go first?
No, I was just going to say nothing from me this evening.
Great. Aaron and Gary, Parks Director. Yeah, I wanted to highlight the Camp Fresno. Yes, last week, July 7th and July 8th, we kicked off our one-day camps. Happy to report the kids were indeed happy, smiles from ear to ear on the way there and the way back. So excited to report on that. Today, we actually sent a group up for a 3-day camp. So this is the first overnight session. And then again, Thursday, Friday of this week, we will have more one-day camps. So those of you out there who know of youth that are still interested, we're still taking signups. and looking for any and all to go up to Camp Fresno. So wanted to put that out there. Also wanted to update on the swim lessons. We've had approximately just shy of 700 youth enroll, and as of the end of this week, about half of those will complete those swim lessons. So happy to report that's going well. So a lot of our youth are taking advantage of our swim lessons from entry level to our more advanced. So happy to report on that. And then also cooling centers, we did activate today. We did reach our threshold, and we'll continue to activate those as needed. And happy to report that we do have the ice cold water. I believe folks were asking about. They are on site as well as bottle fillers. So they're open for any and all community members, and please spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Does anyone from the park staff have any reports or comments for the commission?
Hi, Chair McCoy, Parks Assistant Director Aldi Ramirez. Just to add on to what Director Aguirre mentioned, the city is also partnering with Fresno Unified. We're extending our lessons onto 2 of their campuses at Bullard High School and Sunnyside High School. There will be 2 sessions, one starting July 11th and the other starting July 25th. And then we also have science camps currently going on at Highway City Community Center. So check out those, also posted on our social media. They have lots of different activities going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Aldi. We will now move on to unscheduled communication. Would any member of the public like to speak on any issues within the jurisdiction of this commission? As a reminder, if you have a comment regarding any workshops on the agenda, this is the time to make a comment, as public comment is not taken at the time of the workshop. You will have up to 3 minutes.
Thank you. There is nobody in the chamber, and we have one hand on Zoom, Brandy News-Viegas. You may unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes to address the commission.
Thank you. First of all, I want to congratulate Kimberly on your new position. I'm very excited to see what happens. I mean, all the things that are going to come out of that, and with the intersections of that, the issue with asthma with parks, that's very exciting. So thank you for your the work that you're doing. I want to acknowledge that I saw the agenda for this meeting, a post on Friday, and I want to extend my thanks. I felt like we were being heard as far as finding ways to improve community information. I love the fact that it has a Zoom and an infographic of the agenda to make it more accessible and easy to share. I realized since I was sharing about the parks meeting, but didn't think to look at that I did my part and invited other people to join and follow the page. And I want to add, just to augment this outreach, because I mean, just everything on here has been really great. Would love to see the Twitter page that hasn't been active for a while be utilized for these all the great stuff that's on the Instagram and on the Facebook, and also suggest that like the planning department uses for their various committees and the anti-displacement task force and whatnot, to consider the idea of having newsletters, like with those who register for these meetings, and other people to be able to continue to get emailed the information, as that has been really helpful when they've done that. Thank you so much for regarding the cooling centers. I want to hear more about these water fillers. I'm glad that there is cold water, because one of my suggestions is to have machines out there that can fill bottles and have bottles available. And I just want to ask that with this, just to have greater accessibility among those who are unhoused, and the improvements online, that the department look into and invest in non-internet outreach to the community, especially to those who are unhoused, regarding information about the cooling centers and the fact that the community centers are open during the week, and the pertinent information regarding those and access to fax buses. It would be extremely helpful, as I know that people, this is a valuable asset, and would like to see more of that, and huge banners outside of the community center. I saw one, but love to see bigger ones on there, but I appreciate that. I appreciate the update with the waters and having that open today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let's see. There are no other hands on Zoom, and there's nobody in the council chamber.
Okay, thank you. I lost my spot here. Okay, we will now move on to hearings. 11A, ID number 22-1125. Hearing to establish the Outreach Committee, a subcommittee of the Parks, Recreation, and Arts Commission, and define committee roles, responsibilities, and membership. Commissioner Parks, would you like to introduce this item to the commission and public?
Sure. And let me just open by saying I'm still recovering from an illness, so hopefully my voice holds up for the duration of this, and that's why I'm not in the chambers tonight. So at our last meeting, I introduced this concept, and actually going back to June 6th is when we first started talking about this. So just to kind of recap a couple of the points that I made at the last meeting, we've been hearing from the public that word has not been getting out as far as perhaps it could to people about how to participate in these meetings. So one of the important parts of our roles is, as a commission, is to hear public input. So we want to make sure, of course, that as many people from the public are participating as possible. And that's been a challenge. Again, the Measure P website on the city's page is a little bit tricky to navigate if you're not super familiar with it. We've heard from community members that it's difficult to understand how to join these meetings virtually if you're not able to attend in person. Do you have to register if you want to comment? Do you just watch? That kind of stuff. And then some of the other things that I mentioned last time is just having us think about how we can improve outreach to community members who aren't active on social media. So the city's Facebook page is beautiful. I agree with Brandy, who just spoke before about, I would love to see the Twitter account a little bit more active. That's where I tend to get information, but that's such a small segment of our community. So thinking about how do we reach people outside of social media? How do we reach more children so we can make sure we hear those voices? And this one I've really been thinking about a lot since we last met, is really just sharing good news about projects that have been completed or in progress that have been funded by Measure P. I think that's something that perhaps an outreach committee could help address. And I'll close kind of just this introduction by saying, as people come and participate in these meetings, we're getting really good ideas about how to do better outreach to, encourage more public participation. And so when I initially suggested this back a few meetings ago, that's kind of really where I was coming from, is there a way, maybe through a subcommittee, that we can get feedback from the community, from community leaders about how to do more outreach about the opportunity to participate in Measure P. So that's kind of where I'll stop for now. When I brought this to the committee at the last meeting, I really just wanted to hear from my fellow commissioners to see kind of where you're all coming from and what you think. And so I'll kind of open it up from there.
Thank you, Commissioner Parks. I would go to our commissioners to see if they have any insight or input. We were supposed to come and bring back some suggestions for Commissioner Parks, so I would really like to hear from the commissioners tonight. Dr. Apuda, I see your hand up. You have the floor.
Thank you. At our last meeting, one of the things that City Council was telling us was the specificity, I always struggle with that word, of this subcommittee or ad hoc committee. And so I was looking at, and please tell me if I'm looking at the right document, I was reviewing the legal handbook for boards and commissions. Is that what details out what an ad hoc, is that the document that we should be referring to in terms of what this committee can and cannot do, how it should be structured, et cetera? So that's my first question. And Raj, maybe you can answer that for me.
Oh, I knew this one was for me. Yeah, so that would be a good resource for you to see if this, to see the definition of an ad hoc committee. The other place that you could look is also the ordinance itself to see what committees and
did, and
are established.
I didn't really see anything in the ordinance. I may have just overlooked it, but that was the first place I went.
Right.
To the actual ordinance, so maybe I missed that.
Yes.
But I will look there again.
Yeah, I would encourage, I would, at this point, I'm going to encourage the maker of, or the Commissioner Parks, as well as the administration, to take a look at what is in the ordinance in terms of the authority for the commission. Of course, the council has the authority to provide additional duties and delegate to the commission as well to expand what is in the ordinance. But legally speaking, I think the limit is in the ordinance.
So with what I was able to find and kind of understand, as our chair said, we were tasked with coming back with some ideas at least. It seemed to me that one of the things that this committee could be tasked with doing is reviewing the current outreach processes. I think our city staff is doing a good job. How do we take a look at that and see what other processes, what other ways we can reach our community? And then of course, make some recommendations based on that information. I think the other thing, and it's in keeping with what Commissioner Parks said, is this committee could perhaps also make a recommendation to hold a hearing to invite community members in to tell us. Let's hear from them. How do we reach you? How do we reach your constituencies? How do we reach your neighbors? So those are a couple of things that came to me that I wanted to put out there for us to consider today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Akuda. Commissioner Barraza, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the one area that I am concerned about is that we have a process that's supposed to be used, outreach process for the master plan development. We also have another process that we are supposed to be using for the development of I believe it's like a master plan for the arts and cultural components. How do we avoid duplication of what's being planned for those two efforts? And perhaps park staff or Commissioner Parks too, if she might be able to clarify for us what unique functions would we see in this new subcommittee or committee, whatever we want to call it, just to get more clarification. I have an open mind. I'm always looking forward for ways of improving things and doing a better job. So if someone could address that, I would really appreciate it.
Chair McCoy, could I make a comment in response to that?
I'm on mute, I'm talking, I'm like, yes.
No problem. Commissioner Barraza, I really appreciate your comments. And I have a sense for how the cultural arts plan outreach effort is going to happen as I'm serving on that committee. Let me back up and say, when I first kind of suggested this idea for a potential subcommittee for outreach, I really was thinking about it with the master plan in mind. And I feel somewhat disconnected from what that process is looking like. And I understand that we probably can't go into the weeds about, the master plan at this point, because that's not the item. But if there is, like a robust engagement plan included in that, then maybe yet another committee is not necessary.
But when I first suggested this, I was thinking about it with the master plan update in mind to make sure that we're really engaging, as many residents in the community as possible. So I don't know if there's any update city staff could give us just about like what that might look like in a sort of basic way that doesn't cause Brown Act violation, but I just don't feel totally connected and I'm not totally sure what the master plan outreach effort is going to look like and what the timeline might be.
Well,
Chair
park
McCoy.
staff.
So Commissioner Parks, there is a subcommittee for the Parks Master Plan technical amendment. However, we're just on the preliminary side of it. So we haven't had an opportunity to meet with the subcommittee, but as soon as we do, it'll be very similar and mirror the process we're going through with the cultural arts plan. So, right, the subcommittee will be informed and then they'll be able to take those updates to this bigger commission and to the public to inform them along the way. We're just not there yet. We barely got through budget. So we're working on it behind the scenes. We don't have everything 100% laid out, ready to hit go. So it's forthcoming, I assure you.
Thank you, Aldi. Dr. Apuda, you have your hand up.
Yes, I too appreciate Commissioner Barraza's comments because I agree we don't want duplication. I think as I listened to Commissioner Parks talk about the possibility of this committee, it was specifically related to the work of this commission, whether it's our meetings, when we have hearings. There are things that this commission is doing that we want to be sure that the public is well aware of, is able to have input. So I see it as separate, particularly from the master plan communications. I think there's probably definitely some parallels, but when we are having hearings and we have, 10 people in the audience, I think that's what, for me, when we talk about this committee, is what's important, is that this committee takes a look at how can we get more people, members of our community, to give voice to things that we are having to make recommendations about.
Thank you, Dr. Apuda. Commissioner Barraza, you have your hand up still?
No, I'm sorry, ma'am. I'll lower my hand.
It's okay, thank you. Do any of the other commissioners have anything to provide or on this item?
And Chair McCoy, this is the clerk. Just reminding you, we do have to take this out for public comment as well. Typically, we do that before any motions are made.
Thank you.
Chair, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Vice Dolan.
Chair, I have something to add. From my perspective, it's been very clear that this commission's perhaps most important function is to be a conduit for public input. I mean, in some ways, that seems like all the best and highest thing that we can do, honestly. And it's also seemed to me that there has been a number of situations in which it's clear that we are not getting adequate public comment on issues, or we're getting sort of an asymmetrical amount of public comment on things, right? So it's very hard to weigh. Do we respond to the fact that people are organized and want to show up, or do we respond to the idea that perhaps there are groups that have not even had the chance to weigh in? So I am with Commissioner Parks that I think outreach at the very least deserves to be looked at closely by a subcommittee and evaluated as to its effectiveness in partnership with Parks and the city, by all means. This is not an attempt to either duplicate efforts or anything else, but actually perhaps amplify or otherwise provide some added value to those efforts. But certainly I think as a commission, I think it is very important that we assure ourselves that we are doing everything we can to get not only public input, but sort of a quality of public input that helps inform our own decision making.
Thank you. I would just like to add that I do agree with Commissioner Parks. Community engagement needs to be looked at a little bit closely. But I also do hear Commissioner Barraza's points about recreating or duplicating something that we already have in place. I think that maybe we can create like a little postcard we can just and send out to folks who sign up on our list, or you know, send the template out to us and we can send it out to our network of residents that we work with. But I do agree that more can be done with community engagement process. I just wanted to add that and get on record saying that. Commissioner Barraza, you have the floor. I see your hand up.
Thank you. Just a clarification on something. We kind of started very aggressive in the matter of providing translation services. Is currently that service available to the public? Spanish, Punjabi, and Hmong?
We do have those services available upon request, if I'm not mistaken, but I would go ahead and let someone from the city side answer that.
City Clerk, would you like to answer that?
Certainly, and yes, we do. I'm just reviewing the document we have here. Yeah, typically anyone who makes a request for translation services, the clerk's office is happy to accommodate. We do ask that we get at least 3 days notice before anyone, before we can actually say, yes, we will have those people there, because we have to coordinate with translators who are in demand, and so we have to schedule out a bit. So at 3 days notice is what the clerk's office needs.
All right, I will now take this item out to the public. Will anyone from the public like to comment on this item? You have up to 2 minutes.
There's nobody in the chambers, but the first hand I see on Zoom is Brandy Noose Villegas. Ms. Villegas, you have 3 minutes to address the commission.
Hi, thank you. And I hope in with this matter that it wouldn't be so repeated that with my name pop up. I really appreciate this conversation, and again to Sarah for bringing this forth, and actually everyone's comments, but Aputa's comments about inviting the community on how they can reach the community, because one of our greatest assets are the community itself, of course, and some of the people who can reach them best are people who work with the community as well. I would want to suggest that first, definitely support this, but suggest as a first step, looking very deeply at identifying those who are generally not reached, groups of people, maybe regions, different subsets of the community, to recognize those that we may not even be aware of are being overlooked, to help in getting the input of those who are in the community and might be able to assist with that. I even would love to be able to see the unhoused be part of the conversation, as they should be with all the other ones, as they're often seen as the problem. They know things about the park and are an asset and a resource, and could be able to weigh in on needs that maybe other people aren't aware of. I would love to be able to see, I think that it would be very helpful to work on working with community groups that are ready. We have CNC that I've witnessed, a lot of organizations I've witnessed do this work, like CNC, that actually had a parks advocate group that focused on getting input of the community and bringing, like Aputa suggested, bringing them and community members in to suggest how you can best reach out, how they've been doing so, and also recognizing the limitations of who they've been reaching out to, so we can continue to reach out even beyond that. I would love to see connection with the community relations department at the city office, because I heard it during the budget how valuable they've been at being a bridge to community groups that have felt like they've been left out. And would love to see that partnership with resources we already have. I would also love to see things like the survey that CNC recommended, implemented, as well as, we mentioned postcards, but having the, going through the, sending postcards out to the whole community, all the main addresses, and then addressing issues regarding postings with those who do not have addresses, but would love to see those brought forward to be able to help you be able to identify the best way to overcome the challenges, and also not only reach them, but also help people understand the role of this in ways that they understand what is about, why is it important to them. Because when people see why it's important, they show up. And this would be a huge factor to overcome is perhaps a lack of understanding of what exactly is the opportunity they have with these meetings. Sorry for going over time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And next on Zoom, we have Miss Lisa Flores. Let's see. Lisa, you can unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to address the commission.
Good evening. First off, I want to let you guys know that, I've done plenty of public outreach in regards to my previous job with the state of California. And one of the things I would encourage you to do is to start with a Gantt chart of what all your meeting dates are, what are your deadline dates for major milestones, like when do you have to get the budget in for the next budget cycle, when do you want to have public input meetings, and work back from there. Also too, as far as the community outreach, I like the idea of a postcard. I like the idea of, I would suggest that each one of you as commissioners buddy up with a city council member and make the city council member pay for your postcards to outreach into their district, where you're the focal point of any sort of outreach to the community as a direct link to the commission. I think that, postcards would be really good. You could do them every quarter with the most up-to-date projects, your meetings, what's the park department up to, as well as postcards can also be handed out to the homeless community as a reference point that they can put in their pocket. I love the idea of postcards. Or you could do a one-page kind of newsletter. That works well also in getting news out to the community. In addition to, social media, web pages, maybe some targeting advertisement. But even in doing that, I would also put that on a separate Gantt chart. So you also lead in production time, financing, and approval of the message, and coordinate the message for that as well. That way everybody hits their mile markers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. And let's see, I have no other hands on Zoom and no one in the chambers.
Thank you. Do I have a motion from any commissioner regarding this item?
It looks like Aldi has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't see it. Thank you so much, Commissioner Parks. Aldi, you have the floor.
Thank you both. Just wanted to kind of chime in here just as we continue to work on the same page. So I'm listening to the conversation today, and I hear you that the reach with the additional commission members, it's a lot larger. You all tap into networks, right, that potentially the city doesn't. And staff could be, if this outreach committee is passed today and formed, staff could be engaged with this committee similar to how we are with the other committees. And as I'm hearing, the ad hoc would need a defined deliverable to be formed. And so perhaps a suggested deliverable could be, right, creating a process for the commission's outreach. and staff being engaged would ensure that it complements actions that we already do for outreach and potentially fill a lot of the gaps where we're not reaching in a lot of the communities that we're not reaching. And, that document could lay out the workflow for whether it's a routine meeting, here's the outreach we do, if it's a bigger, the Parks Master Plan amendment or the cultural arts, it could complement that so that we're not, again, doing double work here, but just making sure that you all feel like you're doing outreach as well. And when we bring things forward, then we're all working under the same assumption of here's the outreach we did and we feel good about it. And then when we go to recommend it to city council, et cetera, right, we're all standing behind this process of outreach that was followed. So something to consider.
Thank you, Aldi. I actually like that suggestion. I don't know how other commissioners feel, but I would love to hear from you. I see a thumbs up from Commissioner Cummings.
Yes, I would support that. I think that's a great suggestion.
Thank you.
That ensures there's no duplication of efforts and that the Parks Commission remains, or the Parks Department remains involved in the process as well, which I think is quite critical with our work. So I would support that.
Thank you, Commissioner Cummings. So is there a motion from any commissioner regarding this item, incorporating the suggestion from Aldi? I see your hand up, Dr. Apuda.
Like to take a stab at a motion.
It's kind of hard to hear you.
Oh, yeah, yes, I moved that up.
Okay.
All right, how's that?
Better.
I said I'd like to take a stab at a motion. I move that we create a ad hoc, if that's the appropriate term, committee to work with city staff to review current outreach practices, gather information from constituents and community leaders regarding outreach methods, and make a recommendation for an updated and improved outreach process for this commission's work. Do not ask me to repeat that.
Okay, that's your motion on the floor.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Cummings. City Clerk, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Certainly. Commissioner Parks,
Yes.
Commissioner Barraza,
Yes.
Commissioner Singh,
Yes.
Commissioner Cummings,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Apuda,
Yes.
Commissioner Vang,
Yes.
Vice Chair Dolan,
Aye.
and Chair McCoy.
Aye.
And of course, this is the city clerk. I'm just, do we have members? Are we going to take a vote on members?
I think once we work with, according to Dr. Apuda's, Raj, I'll refer to you, Aldi, thank you. I'm like, bail me out here.
So this could be the subcommittee that was originally formed for highest needs, since they don't have a live subcommittee. That could be those 3 members.
All right, perfect.
You should consider appointing people now since you've created a committee.
Okay,
I'm certainly willing to serve.
As am I.
all right. So as chair of this commission, I have the responsibility and authority to appoint members to the subcommittee. I would like to appoint Dr. Apuda, Commissioner Singh, and myself, since we were part of the highest need committee. I think that we would be able to do a good job on community engagement. Commissioner Singh and myself and Dr. Apuda, so that's who I'm appointing.
Thank you very much.
Does the
Thank you.
commission have any other suggestions though, in terms of if anyone else would like to, like, or is everyone fine with that?
I think as me being chair, I think that I have the authority to be able to appoint which commissioners that I would like to see on the subcommittee.
My apologies. I did
It's
not know
okay.
that. Yeah.
No problem. Commissioner Barraza, I see your hand up. You have the floor.
I would like to express an interest in serving in this committee. The one element that I bring into the picture that I'm bilingual, I speak Spanish also, and I hope that this effort takes into account the language barriers that we have in our community and how certain groups sometimes are excluded because of the lack of translation efforts. So I just wanted to make myself available for whatever purpose I'm useful, and just wanted to point it out.
Thank you, Commissioner Barraza. I do echo what you're saying. I do understand how important it is to have everything translated in all three languages. Spanish, Hmong, and Punjabi. It's very important that we reach all residents in our community. So I do understand, and I agree with you for that. And if I need you, or if this subcommittee needs you, we will call on you. Trust.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will now move on to the next item, 11-B, ID number 22-1124, hearing to receive public input on allocations related to Measure P and the annual Parks Department budget and capital improvement. Would any member of the public like to make a comment regarding this item? You will have up to 2 minutes.
And there are no people in the chambers, and on Zoom, I see a hand from Brandy News-Vegas. Ms. News-Vegas, you may unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes to address the commission.
Okay, this won't take very long. I just want to circle back around regarding things with the cooling center and also a larger one. One of the requests I've made in previous meetings, but wanted to highlight specific asks, the potential of either funding to use existing transportation or to have vans that are available to assist for the purpose of to be an extra additional assistance when needed for the community centers. I know that during the winter time, a number of us spent time in the evenings when the warming center was open, going out to do outreach and see who wanted to go to the warming center and giving them a ride. There's a number of people where it was difficult. It might have been a little late. The buses weren't running because of the time difference. I know, like, the route that goes by to see Wills, which I believe was the warming center, on Saturdays closed at 6:30, and the warming center closed at 7:30, and we were reaching out far past that. And one of the things that was brought up potentially in conversations is the idea of potentially having a van, something to be able to provide transportation for people who might have difficulty accessing the bus, or as part of greater outreach to be able to help. And I know that some of the staff was mentioning that if they had that ability, they would love to be able to assist with that. So I want to highlight that. As far as looking at expenses that would further help, I want to repeat the ask that was there mentioned by a commissioner last time about seeing about either through funds or through any programs that can be accessed to have food access at these at both the warming and cooling center for those in need. As many people, when we were doing the warming center, were quite wondering about food, and while this is a huge benefit for them to get out of the cold, these kind of resources, as well as asking for more resources into other supplies that they can take with them as they leave these centers, that would be helpful. So want to highlight those, and whatever and putting on the budget whatever expenses may or whatever under expenditures, whatever expenses could possibly be allotted to augment the services that are being provided so that these are the most successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next on Zoom, we have Pedro Navarro Cruz. You may, Mr. Cruz, you may unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to address the commission.
Well, good evening, Commission. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Not feeling too well. But, I just wanted to share that in regards to the participatory budgeting process and community outreach, I feel like that's still like the best way to go. I don't know if y'all how deep you've been able to look into the participatory budgeting process, but if somebody, if there's like, what's cool about it is that communities come together and build campaigns around ideas. And part of the role for city council members and city staff is to also keep note on the projects that do not get funded, and use that as an alternative to fund elsewhere. So I just want to continue to push for that because I do feel like it will be transformative, not just for the Parks Department and for recreation and arts needs, but for the whole city. And so just please do not take that off of your radar because it could be very, very transformational. Another idea I'd like to pitch is that through Measure P funds for the upcoming budget cycle and also potentially also for the outreach is to use Measure P funds as a sponsor for different sports tournaments where you can bring people in masses out to a specific event and then you can meet them. Well, they can come to you, right? And you can meet them halfway in a way where you can survey them as to what they would like to see at their park, right? Just innovative ways where you can bring people to you instead of you meeting, just putting stuff online and expecting people to get there because unfortunately it's just not it doesn't work that way as good as it would. It'll just continue being special groups that are special interest groups that continue to come in. And I just feel like there has to be an innovative way where we can reach people that do not feel connected with the system and aren't aware of these investments. That's all I'd like to share today. Thanks again for your service.
Thank you very much. And I have no more hands on Zoom and no one in the chamber.
Thank you, City Clerk. We will now move on to the next item, 11-C, ID number 22-1102, elect chair and vice chair for fiscal year 2022-2023. Are there any nominations for vice chair? I would like to nominate Dr. Apuda for vice chair.
Madam Chair, I respectfully decline.
It's not as hard as everyone think it is. It's really.
Oh, it is. It's incredibly hard.
I would like to nominate our current Vice Chair, John Dolan, to continue in that role.
I would nominate Vice Chair Dolan to continue in that role as well.
So that would be a second.
So that's a second.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or can we just move on to a vote?
It is an action item, so I would recommend moving on to the public.
Oh, I have to go out to the public?
On action items, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, okay. Would anyone from the public like to comment on the nomination for vice chair?
And there is no one in the chamber and no hands on Zoom.
Thank you. City Clerk, can we do a roll call vote?
Certainly. This is for a motion by Dr. Apuda and a second by Commissioner Cummings for Commissioner Dolan to continue in the role of vice. Commissioner Parks,
Yes.
Commissioner Barraza,
Yes.
Commissioner Singh,
Yes.
Commissioner Cummings,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner
Yes.
Apuda,
Yes.
Commissioner Vang,
Yes.
thank you, Vice Chair Dolan,
Yes.
and Chair McCoy.
Yes.
All right, that passes 9-0.
All right. Are there any nominations for chair?
Dr. Apuda, I had planned to nominate you for chair. Maybe you won't decline this nomination?
I respectfully decline. Thank you for your vote of confidence. And I would like to nominate Kimberly McCoy to continue in her role as chair.
And I would like to second that nomination.
And so we have a motion and a second for Chair McCoy continuing in her role as chair.
Is there any discussion? And I will have to go out to the public. So I would like to go out to the public regarding the nominations for the chair.
And there are no attendees in the chamber, and I see no hands on Zoom.
Can you conduct a roll call vote, please?
Certainly. Commissioner Parks,
Enthusiastically, yes.
Commissioner Barraza,
Yes.
Commissioner Singh,
Yes.
Commissioner Cummings,
Absolutely, yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Apuda,
Yes.
Commissioner Vang,
Yes.
Vice Chair Dolan,
Yes.
and finally Chair McCoy.
Yes.
That passes 9-0.
All right, we will now adjourn the meeting at 6:33. I think we broke our own record. Yay! You guys have time back with your family and your kids. Enjoy your evening, and I see you next meeting.
Congratulations to both of you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy
Good night,
your
everyone.
evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.